Hey, I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. We are in the realm of the 31 days of Halloween. Now, I'm not necessarily doing a video or watching a movie for every one of those 31 days, but I am in my head thinking about it, and I hope you are doing the same. Now, let's go ahead and pause for just a minute. I want everybody to go ahead and like this video. Just go ahead and hit that like button, and then we'll go forward with this. Now today we're going to talk about a new Kino Lorber 4K release. Well, it's fairly new. It's not brand new, but it's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. This is from 1956. It is a science fiction horror film. This is the original one. Now, there is a 1978 remake that stars Donald Sutherland. Now, Kino Lorber does have a version of that as well, but I opted for the Arrow release that has this badass box set. Now, this is the Arrow UK release, which looks very good. Now, Kevin McCarthy stars in the original one. He does have a cameo in the remake, playing a similar character and maybe even the same character. So let's take a look real quick at the specs of this. It says, from a 4K scan of the best available 35mm elements. So they do. So it has a 4K scan. It looks good. It's black and white. I don't see a lot of problems with it. You know, there's some film grain throughout, but that's what you want in a movie that is a film and it's not a digital film. There's maybe a little bit of cleanup, but it for the most part looks good. It is just a scan of the elements. Actually, I don't think there is any cleanup. I'm not sure why I said that, but it looks fairly clean to me. I don't see any problems with it. It is presented in 2 aspect ratios. One's 2, I believe it was shot in 2001, and it's also presented in 185/1, which is your typical widescreen. The 2001 is kind of a combination. It's kind of in the middle grade between the what you would notice the bars on the side. It has a slight bars on the top, but it looks pretty good. That's the one I watched it in, was the 2001. I kind of spot checked the other one. I may have just been thinking it, but when I was looking at the 185/1, it did seem to be a little more heavy with the grain, but maybe that's just all in my mind. I don't know. The film's it's a science fiction film about these pods that look like giant green beans. But they come from what we assume, most likely outer space. We assume they're aliens from outer space. They've been sitting here to kind of take over the human race. And it seems how it works is these pods are there. One of the people who have already changed has to bring a pod in, and they put it near the person, and it makes them tired. When they go to sleep, the pod changes them to a duplicate person. It makes a duplicate of them, and it's implied that the original person perishes, maybe disintegrates or dies or something like that. It's a fairly scary concept, and it's done here. Now, the remake has some fairly impressive special effects. This one is a lower budget, and the special effects, in 1956, the special effects weren't quite as good as when they 1978, but at the same time, you don't necessarily need the special effects for it to be effective. It's a chilling type of story, and I think that it still works even without seeing everything. Sometimes seeing less leaves something to your imagination. You think like, how does it? In your head you can fill in those blanks, and maybe it may be a little more scary. I felt the characters in here were represented fairly good. It didn't seem that dated. Even it is an older movie, so things are going to be a little bit different, but it didn't seem outdated in a corny type of way. The film plays a little bit like a film noir. Even the main character is somewhat flawed from the beginning. He's a doctor, which I guess comes in handy, but he has to try to get people to believe him that this stuff's going on. It takes him a while to be convinced that it's going on. He has to see several people before he starts to think, hey, what's up with this? Now, one interesting thing about this, now, in Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, takes place when they go to the town where the masks are being made. If you've seen the film, that town's called Santa Mira. It's a fictional town. It's this, which is in Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, must be like a homage to this film, because that's the town that they're in. but the people are being replaced, which is a similar concept of Halloween 3. So I wish I recently did a video on Halloween 3 and a podcast, and I wish I'd known that beforehand. I could have been like, you know what, this is like a throwback to Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which is fairly clever. I should point out, and this is something that was added later on by the producers. Now, it has a beginning. At the very beginning of the movie, it takes place in the future. One of those like where the main character is trying to talk to some other doctor. Like they think he's insane. He's like trying to tell them about what's going on in the other town where the people are being transformed into pod people. But he's trying to tell them, and then it goes into flashback, and then at the end, it kind of has a little bit of a spoiler but for those who haven't seen it. It has a little bit of a positive ending, where before, if it didn't have those type of elements, the film would have been a lot different. It's not as much of a negative ending as the remake, 1978 remake, but it would still leave it in a place where it didn't look quite as hopeful that they were going to be able to stop this invasion. Now, this is a fairly, if they bring these pods in the way that they're doing, and they're replacing the people, and they do it in one town fairly quickly, it looks fairly dire for the human race if they're able to do that. You can't go to sleep, and humans obviously have to go to sleep, and you can't, and so you're trying to fight sleep. It's kind of like Nightmare on Elm Street. You can't, it's impossible to fight it after a while. So more than likely, like, this invasion would be very hard to stop. But I do like the idea of there being a positive spin on it, because I don't really want these aliens to win ultimately. But it's also kind of cool to have an ending where, in the remake, the ending is fairly unsettling, and it makes you think about the film long after it's over. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Maybe I'm going to go ahead and rate it anyway. I'm going to rate this film a 4. It is an older film, and the new one does add some new things to it, but for what it is, and this movie's been in the Library of Congress, has been put there for significance. They feel it is significant, and it is a significant film. So I'm going to rate it a 4. I'm going to rate the presentation by Kino Lorber probably a 4 as well. Let's go take a look at this. What they've done. It's not, it's fairly simple. You got a simple old school cover slip cover, and here's the inside, and you have both a Blu-ray. The Kino Lorber typically keeps it very simple. You got a Blu-ray and a 4K of the film. I do have the reverse. Now this is another cover of. This one isn't nearly as good as this. This may be a newer cover. Maybe they made it for it. It's definitely a lot better than that. In conclusion, I think the idea behind this story is very scary. It is very a chilling idea to have these other beings come in and replace human beings. I mean, it is something similar if we were to look towards our current climate, like AI. I mean, it is something that kind of comes close to this, where AI can replicate a human being in a way now, at least through the internet, like they could make what I'm saying here without me even saying it. Now, whether they can't necessarily do that in person at this point, but maybe in the near future they can. Let's hope that doesn't happen, or we stop it before that happens. Anyway, I think this presentation, I think Kino Lorber did a decent job. They clearly could have done a little bit more, but they kind of keep it simple, and that's what they do. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you haven't done so already, if you'd go ahead and like this video and subscribe. Thanks for watching.